Liv, thanks very much for your time. Good to speak to you as always. If we start with Ante Cianats, who obviously went off with quite a worrying injury against Derby, what's the scan show?
Yeah, not good news. Ruptured his ACL, so he's going to be out rest of the season. Requires surgery. So, yeah, hugely disappointing for him, and also for us in terms of obviously losing him. So, yeah, that's the news on him.
Could it be an injury that actually sort of goes beyond the end of the season, or is it kind of early to say that?
It's early to say, yeah. I mean, you have to wait for the swelling to come down and has to do bits before the surgery, before they can operate, and then of course you have to see how they respond on the way back. So it's that long that you can't commit to time frames really, but yeah, it looks like the season will be done.
Yeah, you said it was disappointing for him. I mean, it feels like terrible timing because going into the season, a lot of people were saying it might have been sort of a breakthrough. So for him, for it to be over at this stage must be really difficult.
Yeah, you could see walking off the pitch, he was devastated. He was in the change room afterwards. Obviously, you know, he's had some people around him looking after him and picking him up the last, yesterday and today. The clarity, I think, and now it's about creating a plan. And that naturally, he's obviously, he'll be down, he'll be emotional, and that's where again you have to stick together and pull him through it. So yeah, just disappointed for him.
And for you as well, because it's in an area of the pitch where you've already got a couple of injuries. Obviously, he was playing for you often, so that must be a big blow as well.
Of course, it's kind of where we're at the minute, right? I think he, moments before it, he hits the post and nearly gets off the mark, and an inch to the left, and it probably goes in. And then 2 minutes later, he's obviously picking up such a serious injury. So it's of course it's frustrating, it's disappointing. I think he's, when you look at the age of him and where he's at in his career, I think he's, to be honest, he's had a tough opening, tough period. But I think you have to play people through that, especially when you're trying to develop players to to hit their level. And yeah, like I keep coming back to the word disappointed ultimately.
You said on Tuesday night you're hoping that Matthias was going to be back to hopefully give you another option in there. Is that still the case?
Yeah, he trained today, looked well. So yeah, he comes into contention to travel at the weekend. And again, I think it's one of those where naturally we need to win a game, but we also have to make sure we look after him and not risk him and go too mad too early. So it's finding that right blend. But he looked sharp today, trained really well.
Does it feel like he's the sort of player who maybe you need at this time as well? Obviously you've been struggling to score goals and a few poor results. Somebody with that talent at the top end of the pitch could really help you being back as well. Yeah,
definitely, and that's the bit we not shied away from. The results haven't been good enough, but I think since Stoke, which we come away from Stoke having performed not great but take a point, and I think the game since then, the actual performances of when I think of like West Brom at home, I think the other night we Ipswich for 65 minutes, Bristol first half, the actual performance, we found a more consistent level game to game, but I don't want to be sitting here and talking around good performances with no results. I think the whole way of, like Derby the other night, how we play first half, you have to come in ahead, and ultimately that then comes down to quality in and around the box, which we lacked. So when you look at Matthias and what we brought him here to do, and you look at his record, he's one of the lads in the team that has got a proven record of scoring goals. So someone like him is hugely important. So yeah, we're delighted to have him back, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, you referenced there that it's kind of obviously it happened in the first half against Derby where you looked pretty good, and then it was a pretty big drop off in the second half. Maybe similar against Ipswich. What do you put that down to in terms of not being able to carry it over 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think if you look at the two games, I think naturally you get to half time and the opposite. When I looked the other night, in terms of the control, the domination, the chances that we had, I think you then you get to half time, their opposition manager can solve some problems, so they come out slightly differently. And even the other night, we still at the post, Sarge, nearly got in. We had numerous set pieces. So for me, it was a 5-minute spell second half, which poor goal again, which ultimately cost us. I wouldn't say it was a whole second half or a start of the second half. It was a 5-minute spell around, just before they scored. And similar to Ipswich, I thought, maybe not the threat, but I thought we had really good control up until the third one. It's one of those, I think it's like a pressure cooker, right? I think, where we're at with the run, when you're on top and you're dominating, you don't score, the pressure increases. And again, I think you then face that challenge, probably similar to, Bristol at the weekend. We create some, really good moments and don't take them, and the pressure keeps mounting. You almost need to release it a little bit, and that's for me why we have to keep believing in what we're doing and how we're playing. But we have to be more ruthless in both boxes ultimately.
When you look at sort of the results compared to some of the positives in the performance, does it feel almost like, I mean, you know, we talk about good teams finding ways to win when they're not at their best. Does it feel almost like your team are finding ways to lose when they are at their best at the moment?
Yeah, possibly. Good way of putting it. I think you look at it. I think if you look at you look at experiences. I think you look at the league. You look at trends. I think if you want to produce a team, with the change we've had that can consistently win games, it comes then down to how do you perform. And again, I think a little bit like the other night, the performance. If you want to win game after game after game, I think it's understanding how do you do that. And we're in that stage. We've got to learn how to win. It's fine performing well, but we're doing it to win games. And I think what we've shown is we can go and dominate large periods of game and create and have purpose and sustain. But you're doing that to then go and kill the opposition off, and that's the bit that the hardest part, which now needs to come because we need to start winning games. And I think if you just look at the chaotic nature of the league, I think it's very much about how do you go on runs. And again, I think that's what will happen. I do believe it. I think when I look at some of the performances, West Brom one that drives me insane when I sit here in terms of thinking how on earth did we lose that game. I think it's one of those where we've shown against other Championship teams that we can go and dominate. And like I said, I'm confident that when we do get a win, we'll go on a run.
Yeah, if I can just check on a couple more injuries. Ben Crozene, I know you spoke about him, but where is he now? Is it still too early, you're thinking, of the weekend?
Yeah, he still needs another week, I think, and then we'll see him, probably not next week, the week after, in terms of reintegrating fully into training. And like I say, he looked good in the conditioning work he was doing today, but yeah, he's progressing well.
And what about Lucia Mahova?
Yeah, no change in that. Still, in terms of the plan, won't be available for the weekend. But then, in terms of it, expecting Forson back next week, which will be good to have him back in and around the group. A big positive, and that's, I think what we need is some energy in that top area, and someone that having missed a period of time, I'm sure will be coming back hungry, desperate to go and get some goals.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him. That's good news, particularly because it feels like you've been playing maybe a few players in that number 10 position who haven't been there too much. So to have someone who's maybe a bit more natural there must be a big boost for you as well.
Yeah, massive. It'd be great to have him back, definitely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about sort of some of the roots of the problems, because I know you've spoken a lot about behaviours and kind of the non-tangibles of the game, but do you see any major sort of technical, tactical problems with the team still?
I think we've progressed in it. I think that's why I enjoyed that, especially the first half the other night. In terms of, I've spoken a lot since coming in around producing players that can make decisions. And again, I thought what you saw the first half the other night was definitely a group that's starting to understand it. I think we went in behind them quite well. Kenny to Sarge a few times. We went through them again to Sarge or to Gibbsy, or and we attacked down the outsides, and that once you get it, once it clicks, that variation, you become quite difficult to stop. And again, I think that's the bit where, like I said, tactically the lads will continue to improve because of the work behind the scenes. We need to manage pressure better. I think that's the biggest bit. Naturally, we're in a tough spot, and like I said, in game, I do genuinely believe once that valve gets lit off and we do score when we're on top, and the confidence comes, I do think you'll see the group continually grow, and that's we're learning at the minute. We're learning about each other in tough times. We're learning about sticking together, about having each other's backs, etc. And like I said, I'm sure that when we do release, like I said, that valve, I'm sure that the lads you'll see them grow even more so.
Obviously, it's Swansea this weekend. What do you make of them?
Tough. Every Championship game, it's mad. I tend to do probably what everybody else does: check the scores, check the stats, see what the game looks like. It's not always an honest reflection of it because of the flaws of what you get from collecting data. But at the same point, it's just madness when you see some of the results and what you feel like the game might look like. So it's a tough game. It's a tough place to go. Against a well organised, well set up side. Obviously, for them, we've invested a decent amount in the summer as well in certain players. So we know it's a tough place, but like I said, we can't deviate from what we're doing. I think if we perform, the bit for me, we have to perform like we did the first half the other night, and then make the chances count when you get them. Can
you still take comfort from some of the away wins earlier in the season, or is that difficult? Because obviously it's been a couple of tough results on the road now. Yeah,
of course you have to. I think you have to. have to learn from past experiences. You have to take the lessons from it. But it's another opportunity at the weekend, and that what we don't want to do is keep letting opportunities pass us by, which we have. I think it's one of those where the lads should be desperate to get out there and build on the other night and turn that into a win.
I know you've been asked whether you think you're in a relegation battle, and obviously it's early in the season, but would you say there's worry about it?
For me, no. I think it's one of those where I'm quite clear we have to win games. I think not nice seeing it, not nice being in the position we're in. Never shied away from that fact. Always, we'll always step up and take responsibility for it. But again, I think it's when I see what I've seen in recent weeks, I believe in the group. I believe in if the lads step up and take responsibility. I came from a little bit after Bristol game at the weekend. When I saw them again the other night, I thought they did. And that's the bit that will change it. That's the bit that will get us to wins. But when you look at so many of the games, the moments of quality that we've produced, I still believe that a lot of the games have been decided by us in the wrong way. It's now making sure that we, decide the games in the right way by, executing the, actions in and around the box and not giving away soft goals.
Yeah, I know you'll still be thinking about promotion, and that will still remain the goal. Obviously, you made quite a late charge to the playoffs with Bristol City last season, so you're probably best to answer sort of how late it can come. But it feels like, or does it feel like, you're kind of now getting to a stage where you have to turn it quickly, or it's going to be difficult to get the number of points you need to get to that end of the table by the end of the season?
Honestly, it's so far away. It's so far away. My energy's going in. We need to win Saturday. I think that's the biggest bit for me. Forget end of seasons. Forget that. It's so far away still. What we can't do is focus there and keep letting games drift us by. And I think that's the biggest bit is where we're at. We have to change where we're at, and that starts by Saturday. Let's not think too far ahead. We have to give everything to make sure that we try and win Saturday.
I have to ask you about something that happened after the game the other day, because Shane Duffy, obviously one of your most experienced players, was kind of interacting with fans and going back to fans in a relatively unsavoury way. I know he's now apologised, but just wanted to get your reaction when you saw that.
Yeah, got informed about it. I said it on social media, so I didn't see it. You can't do it in today's world. You can't do it. Spoke to him this morning. We spoke to him in the office. He's going to apologise for it, but you can't do it ultimately, and that for me is as simple as that, really.
Where's that come from? I think he explained it a little bit that he's frustrated with the position at the moment, but I suppose where has that come from for him?
You'd have to ask him. I think I had that chat with him this morning. I think it's a private chat that me and him had. I think he cares. I think that's the bit. But ultimately, I think in today's world, you can't respond. I think it's one of those. We're always going to be in the firing line of people with where social media's at, where the world's at. I think that's for me why I stay off it.
Yeah.
More harm than good. So just don't get involved in it. Just stay away from it. Keep your opinions to yourself.
Has there been any sort of internal kind of disciplinary procedure?
We had an internal meeting this morning, but that's where it all stays internal. Yeah.
Okay. So it won't affect kind of whether he's selected this weekend or anything like that?
I haven't selected a squad, to be fair. I think there's a whole host of factors that go into picking a travelling squad, and that possibly a part of it. So again, I think it's one of those where we're at. We need everybody all in ultimately. So again, I'll finish off the work that we're doing in preparation for the weekend, and then I'll make a selection on the squad later today.
Is his fitness at a point where he could?
He trained today, yeah.
Okay. I also wanted to ask you about kind of how you feel about having to. I know you have to speak about your job at this moment, because unfortunately that's the world of football at the moment, and you'll know that you're under pressure. You're having to come out and probably speak about your future 3-4 times a week. Do you think it would help you to have someone else come out and kind of speak and give their point and get their point across?
I think for me it is what it is. It's the industry. It's what we sign up for, right? I think under no illusion. I think in terms of in an industry where you need to produce results, and in an industry where it's to do that you're getting less and less time. So I think for me it's fine. I'll keep my head down. I'll keep working. I think Ben's in constant contact with the owners around things, and then the message of support. Keep doing what you're doing. We're quite clear where we're at, what we're doing, in the direction we're going in. So for me it's that. I'll control what I can. I can't control the noise. I can't control external factors. All I can control is how hard I work and how much I give to the lads and the club, and and that people around the place, and I'd like to think would say that I'm flat out trying to change things.
Is there presumably? I mean, you talk about support. Has there been that backing from Ben and other people to say don't worry about this noise. You are our man, type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's what I signed up for, right? You look at what I left in the summer to come here. I think I knew it was a challenge. Of course, when I come out and we speak, the objective doesn't change in what we're trying to achieve here. I think just because we have an initial bump at the start of it, I think it doesn't change in terms of what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to go about it. I think it's making sure that in these moments that you do stick together. I think the easiest thing, and I'm not sure it changes a huge amount, is that quickly changing things. I'm not sure that changes a lot. I believe in the work we do. I believe in the culture we've created. I believe in the results that we'll see over time, and that for me is the biggest bit. Is while we're trying to get there to the level I know we're capable of, is you have to pick up results along the way. I'm not stupid on that one. So for me, it's very much that. It's frustrated, it's disappointing. I've got exactly the same feelings as everybody around the place, but I'm also able to kind of park that to the back of my head and concentrate on what I need to do, which is making sure that the lads stay focused for Saturday and ignore the noise, because where we're at in the world now with what people can do and say and how things are, it can definitely have impact. So for me, it's how do we block that out and make sure that we turn up and ultimately be the best versions of ourselves on Saturday.
Yeah, just finally I wanted to ask you about Jovan Makama, because even though things have been difficult, it feels like he's been a bit of a positive story.
Yeah, and I think a few of the lads are progressing. I think that's the bit. I think when you look at it, it's about being realistic with the group we've got as well. We've got people that it's how do we turn really high potential into more consistent performances, and when you look at it, I think he's a really good example of that. I think he's progressively got better. I think lads around it, Pella's improving. I think Yakov coming out and going back in, I think he's looked better. Same as I think Mirko helped him. I think there's Oscar for me, he's continually improving as well, and that's the bit. I think you also have to be a little bit realistic with the group we've got. That it's about how do we now turn, like I said, really high potential into consistent performances to win in the Championship.
I think there's been a few times with Jovan where you've kind of taken him off around the 60-minute mark or early in the second half. So do you feel like his performances need a bit more consistency, that he needs to extend the quality of them a little bit?
Yeah, and just the physical demands, the intensity is a big step up from League One. I think just moments in terms of and again, people straight away jump to how he looks when he's running, but I think it's also like the intensity demands mentally. Staying focused, staying. When I've spoken about toughness recently, is not switching off in key moments. In and out of possession, it's that side of it. And look, he's done really well, Joe. I've been really pleased with him. I think he's had really, real good start, real good impact. He's one that I think's got a really exciting future ahead of him. It's now how do we, turn that 60 into 70 minutes, 75 minutes, 80 minutes, and build it up, and that's where he's at. That's what we have to do. That's our job.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Neil, you just touched on the intensity of playing in the Championship and talking about Jovan as well. I just wonder about some of the other players who have come in since the start of the season, probably getting to grips with the pace of Championship football and how long it's going to take them to actually establish themselves out. You had the bonus of obviously Ante and Oscar have had a season of it, so they know what it's like. What about the others who have just come through? How far do you think they're away from getting to grips with it?
If you could put time on it, it'd be a fantastic thing, because when it would click. But it's such a unique league, and again, having been around the world, and seen various games, various leagues, and you speak with the lads that are coming here. The shock sometimes in them is quite interesting. In that, I just think margins top to bottom are so fine. And I think that's when you look at lads that do come in, and no disrespect to other leagues, but quite often you can predict results. The top 3 or 4 will always beat the bottom 3 or 4, and then there's a load in the middle. And I think that's where the Championship's so different. And like I said about the stats a bit earlier, and you have to look at games where one team can dominate and still lose, and that's not a one-off. That happens quite frequently in the Championship. You never want to predict the results, so it's definitely a piece for the lads coming in, that understanding of the margins, how tight all the games are, how different home and away can feel, how much of a battle, how it doesn't rest physically from the start to the end. Where I watch other leagues, the intensity is not the same. It will settle for periods, it will die off, or it doesn't happen too often in the Championship. So that physical side, but also the biggest bit I keep talking about is the mental side. It's the physical intensity, but you also get the mental intensity, the demands that you switch off for a second, you're in trouble. And it's done in different ways, whether it be regames, whether it be the other night dealing with direct play. it does. It takes people time to adapt, and we have to accelerate that. We have to, hence a lot of work behind the scenes, sitting with players, and there's so many factors that go into that adaptation that we're doing absolutely everything to try and speed it up.
You said after the game against at the weekend against Bristol City that you wanted more players to basically sort of take control of the situation, if things are going wrong, that sort of stuff. So did you see more of that at Derby?
Yeah, definitely did. I think that, look, I'm my own biggest critic. I'll look at myself first and foremost before I go for anybody else. And then even then, it's not about going for people. It's around, if we want to be successful and win, what do we have to do in order to do that? And again, I think I look at it, and I've always got game plans right. No, of course not. But I think when you look at aspects in the game of how do we cause the opposition problems to Bristol at the weekend in terms of trying to attack down the outsides and getting behind them, we caused a few problems with that first half, and then it's how do you keep doing that? And then the other night I thought that was a bit from the weekend in terms of when the pressure hit a little bit, and we're the longer the game goes on, go on and go and grab it, make the most of the opportunity, go and be brave enough to take responsibility and make decisions and ask questions and put balls in the box and take people on. I saw that the other night for large periods, and that's all I ask. It's not about always getting it right or always getting it wrong. It's always committing to making a decision and trying to have impact, and that's we, like I said, we have structures, we have ways of working, but within that, empower the players a lot to own aspects of it. And again, I thought, especially first half the other night, saw huge elements of it. So it was definitely a step forward.
Yeah, and finally, just about some of the older players in the squad, the ones who have been here a little bit longer than the building than others. How much are they helping to drive the dressing room as well? Because you can't talk about everything and be there all the time. How do they drive it?
Yeah, I'd say a few. Kenny's been top. Kenny, I sit with Kenny most days, to be fair. We sit down and have a chat, and he's been there, done it with here. So he hurts as much as everybody else, and again I think you see him the other night, how he's organising, how he's taking responsibility, how he's forcing people to play, how he's making decisions for others, the impact he has, and that's the biggest bit. You need that, and again I think what we have got in there is a group of lads that are all in. There's you've been in places where you can get splits in the changing room, or you face a bit of adversity. It can separate people, or people not own it. And again, I think that's where I look at Kenny, I look at Sarge, I look at Harry Darling. I've really stepped up and gone, right, lads, it's on us. We've got to change it. We've got to be the ones that in game go and implement it. And that's like I said, was pleasing the first half, especially the other night. Was I saw a group of lads play together to try and impact the result in a positive way.
Thanks.